The transition report has so much information in it that sometimes we want to capture that information in a printable report. Maybe you want a binder that's at your desk at your fingertips, so you don't need to be attached to a computer at all times. The transition report allows you to print in a couple different ways, and I'll go through both ways. The first way to print is by student, and if you open up, Clever Admin as the student, up at the top corner there's the print, or in the top blue ribbon there's a print button, and you can print. There are 4 different reports that are available for this student, and if you, like for example, we just click on the record of adaptations and a PDF opens up that has the general information here. It's got an error message because again this is not a real student, but then it only tells the record of adaptation tab, so whatever was chosen is what shows up. So here is that record of adaptation tab, so only the checkboxed ones will show up. The ones that aren't checked don't show up. The other 3 reports that can be printed onto a piece of paper are the high school, the elementary, and the pre-K and K tabs, and they're just different audiences. These are quite large reports actually. So if I choose just the high school one, it starts off looking similar with that same top area, but then it will, these reports also show the general information from the first page, like gifted learner, FNMI, the record of adaptations is all there. It goes through some of those, the attendance and some of the assessments that have been completed. Any types of additional transitions that might be used, and then the progress report card marks as far as we can. So it's a 3-page document for high school. The elementary and pre-K and K ones won't include, like the elementary one won't include the high school stuff because the student isn't in high school yet, and the pre-K and K won't include either one of these, only the pre-K and K. So if I wanted to print just one report for one student, I would go into this file, I would open it up, and I would print it from the PDF. Now if I wanted to print, let's say, multiple reports, I want to print 3 of these off, at the bottom I could choose multiple reports, and it brings up all of the initiatives or all of the forms that have been made for this student. I can select them all and I can print off a whole lot of paper, or I can pick and choose. So there is that record of adaptation, and it will print in this order. So if you want the record of adaptation to print first, click it first. And then you also want the elementary transition report, and maybe you also want a safety plan for a neighboring school to print off, and an EAL progress report that is letter sized. You choose them all for that one student and you push the print button. It will have to think a little bit because these are pulling from different parts of Clever, but eventually it will give you a 10-page document now with your record of adaptation right there. Unfortunately, it does the blank page in between. We can't help that. Elementary report, 3-pager there, safety plan, and the EAL progress report. Now let's say that you don't want to print just one student's work. You want all of your class, you want to choose the records of adaptation for everyone in your classroom. Well, you could go through one by one by one by one and print them all off, or you can go up to the area at the top called bulk, and it's bulk print. For bulk printing, you have to choose the form that you are trying to print from, so it's the transition form. And all of the students from that school, every student in the school shows up in this big list. Every student you have access to. So if you are an LAT, you'll have access to the whole school. If you're a classroom teacher, you should only have access to your students. Now you can narrow it down. If sometimes you'll have a student maybe a form isn't quite filled in properly, you might want to be specific and choose only students that the school year is 2021-2022, and this list of student names might start to shorten up. You might also want to choose, if you're an LAT, you might only want to choose any students in grade 3. Well, you can see my name just disappeared because my fake student wasn't in grade 3. If you want only students that have an IIP, as yes. Okay, so my fake student does not have an IIP. My fake student is blank. So you can really narrow down how you're searching for your students. Any student that has a record of adaptation is, so yes or no, yes. Okay. Once you have it narrowed down, and you should see your list of students, so maybe it's narrowed down from the whole school down to maybe 15 names, you can even select individual students at that point. So this is really handy for narrowing down that information. Then you want to select one or more of the reports. Again, they're going to print in the order they are selected. So if you want that record of adaptation first, you click it first, then you click the pre-K and K report. From here, you can print, and all of these students will get the record of adaptation and then a transition report. Then the next student's record of adaptation and transition report. Then the next student's. You can also choose to zip the reports and get a nice concise folder. So those are two ways that you can print reports out, either for one student at a time or maybe for your whole classroom.